Yo, 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 what's going on, y'all? This is Dave of the No Compromise Media. I am here with my homeboy one more time, my brother from the West Coast, my boy Warren G of No, I Don't Know TV. No, I'm not the one. Um, know everything. No, I don't know. You got it all. You know what I'm saying? And we are discussing hip hop, black influence, the hip hop, and its influence on the black community. Does hip hop belong to black people? Is hip hop black culture? That's the main thing. So I'm gonna get right into it, Warren G. This is this is Busta Rhymes right here. I'm gonna play it on my phone because the speed back's a little faster. But it's Busta Rhymes from a year ago, right? It's a year ago, but a lot of people just now digging this up now because he's been real reckless with his mouth, you know what I'm saying, with his thoughts and stuff like that. So here you go, right here.
Has influenced the Latin music and its culture?
I think that, my family is Jamaican, and Latino and Jamaican are Caribbean people. You know, with tropical people. With people that understand what that timing and that rhythm and that pocket feels like in a way unlike any other culture of people. You know, from the bass lines to the way we choose to place our words as people of the Caribbean and of the tropics. I think that it's just it's something you can't really define in words. It's a feeling thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you watch Latinos do the salsa or merengue and you see Jamaican people, do they shit. It's kind of like something that goes hand in hand. And, it ain't a coincidence that in every urban community, the Latino and blacks is there together. That ain't no accident. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like you find in every urban community, Middle Eastern and black or Asian and black. You always see Latino and black. And I think we just so a part of each other's cultural significance, not only as tropical people, but even here in the United States, where the multicultural, because the U.S. ain't got no culture. They shit is all our shit. A bunch of our shit is what makes the U.S. whatever you want to call it. We still don't know what that culture is for the U.S., but it's a mix-up of all of our cultures. And in the urban community, the Latino and the West Indian has the greatest influence, and we've always had, and we'll always will, and it's just been that way. So I've actually been influenced by the Latino community, which allows me to feel that much more comfortable putting my West Indian influence in my music, because they made me feel that much more proud to be like, yeah man, me's a Jamaican and I say it. But I'm just saying, a lot of the times, it ain't until you're made to feel comfortable giving it to the people who and what you really are, what your influences are, for your upbringing in the house, that you do it. So, being that I've been made to feel comfortable doing it, I think I also gotta acknowledge and credit the Latinos for their influence on me. Just the same way that I've been able to take that influence and give it back to the music. But a lot of that just has to do with just being around it, growing up a part of it, and just seeing that it worked. When I was able to do the shit and incorporated it little by little and seeing the shit work, I was like, man, this shit is not gonna ever stop happening with me, because it's an advantage that I have being of the Caribbean descent, being of the tropical upbringing, being from that environment. I can use that to my advantage. A lot of rap motherfuckers and American artists, they can't use that, and I can do what they doing as an American, but I also got this little secret weapon that I'm gonna pull out the stash every now and then, and I'm gonna use it to my advantage. So, I think that's really what it is, and so far, it's been magical results for me.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your thoughts, my brother. I see you was grimacing a lot. Your thoughts.
This is my first thing about Busta Rhymes saying that. It seems like a lot of black folk, they cater to other racial groups because of the other racial groups being their payer. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'll say that part of it. That's one. Two, let's just start from the beginning. You've just made our struggle obsolete, in my personal perspective. So then, basically, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's studies, the ISIS papers, Keys to Color, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing's theories, Neely Fuller Jr., Dr. Claude Anderson. You can tell you know what Busta Rhymes reminds me? This is what I don't understand about God bodies, the 5% Nation. Because I ain't never heard Nas say nothing like that. But I feel like the more you're out in the open, you'll say that. But it's very disrespectful to foundational Black Americans, or Native Blacks, as Dr. Claude Anderson calls it, who has built this country for free. Hip hop is based off of and created out of foundational Black American struggle, my brother. So I would strongly disagree. So, and two, I don't know Busta Rhymes personally, and I've always been a big fan, but we made you, not white folk, not Latinos. We are the grassroots people who was continually buying our music when they didn't want us to be buying our music. This is another thing that I don't understand. Why is it we want to give every other racial group credit for something that we created? I'll say it again, because I think it's the payer fact. If there was no money involved, no accoutrement, no gifts, no nothing, you would be taking all the credit. You would be giving all the credit to Black folk. And I feel like these other racial groups, and I love my Africans and my Jamaicans and my Haitians, and I love them, but they're very, very out of line, out of pocket, saying those things when, if that's the case, then why wasn't hip hop created in Puerto Rico? Why wasn't it created in a Latin country? Why wasn't it created in Jamaica? Why was it created in the United States of America Incorporated, where we just happened to build this country for free? And I'll repeat it again. You were basically telling me that all these books that I just read, books I got from you, books I got from Hidden Colors, all these podcasts that I got these books from, and in my little bit of studies, you're basically telling me that that's not true. Because if it had not been for our personal blood, sweat, equity in building this country for free, you don't get hip hop. And hip hop didn't just start in the 70s when they think it started. No, foundational Black Americans was already doing hip hop. They was already breakdancing. They was already doing all that stuff. So it's like, why is it, now I gotta ask, why is it you're going on that crusade of including them when in the 80s and in the 90s, Puerto Ricans first of all, Latin America, I would say, or I would just say Latinos as a whole, they don't like Black folk. And they are very quick to distinguish who they are when they get around the dominant society. I don't understand why everybody's acting like they don't know what's going on. Look, you know what? I'll give you an example. At this corn plantation I was working with a Latino, a couple of them. And one of my good homeboys, he's Guatemalan. I talk to him to this day, man. I've known him a long time. And he laughed and agreed. I said, why is it y'all got all this racial pride till y'all get to that corporate plantation job? And he was like, what you mean? I said, y'all got your Guatemalan flags and your Honduras flag and your Latino flag and I Latino and all this other shit. And then when you get to that corporate plantation, yes, sir, Dean King, sir. Wow. That's all out the window. That's all out the window. Well, then you don't have no racial. You know who has the racial pride, David? Let me tell you who had the racial pride. The Latinos that's standing outside of Lowe's and Home Depot. The ones that can't speak Spanish and will not become Americanized. And they're just here to reap the benefits. They don't want to deal with nobody else. They don't even want to deal with white folk. They just want to come here, get their money, take care of their family. They don't want to speak English. They don't want to get none of our European education. They just want to get their bread and take care of their family. Those are the Latinos I feel has racial pride in who they are. Because they normally get the bread here, they take it back to Mexico or their country where they came from, and they tell the United States of America, good riddance. Those are the people that have racial pride. These so-called other racial groups that come here with their Haitian flags and all that, my question would always be, then why didn't you build it in your own country? What are you doing here? I'm under the guise of Dr. Clyde Anderson. That's who I studied. He said, and I believe him, you are a freeloader. You're here for unearned benefits. So when I hear Busta Rhymes say that, my brother, I'm like, you're not misinformed, Busta Rhymes. You know what's going on. But here's the thing. Now you're making us now we're gonna start betting out. Okay, what are you? You Jamaican? Okay, look at Shine Barrows. He got kicked out of the country. You know you can't come back. Now all of a sudden you're clean. I'm not saying people can't stay, but man, his last album, it's nigga, 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 nigga. He go on Drink Champs. He don't even say nigga. He don't say nothing. It's like that doesn't even exist anymore. This is what I mean by people borrowing from our culture and then going back to their homeland and doing whatever. It's like, well, David, remember I told you in the space? I was at this court plantation, and this girl, she was Belizean, and she couldn't wait to tell me, I'm not black, I'm Belizean. That's why, because I speak Spanish, I'm not black. And I just looked at her, and the look that I gave her, I think she was so embarrassed, because I just let her finish talking. And after I let her finish talking, I just said, and like, I don't understand what's the need to tell me that. She was like, oh, and then she didn't know what to say, and it was very awkward. And in my family, my sister, my cousin, you ain't met my older brother, but they'll tell you, I'm known for making moments awkward like that. Like, that doesn't make, you know what I mean? So it's like, but this is what they do. Now Busta, it's like, you make good work. You have done good work. But here's the thing. You was not speaking like this when Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See. You wasn't speaking like that when Puff Daddy, a black man.
Or what's the scenario when he came out and he had the Dr. Seuss hat on and all of that?
Thank you. You wasn't saying none of that when what's the scenario with Tribe Called Quest. I didn't see no Latinos in Tribe Called Quest. But now all of a sudden, because your man's Fat Joe, Fat Joe's allowed to do that because Fat Joe, there's no disrespect to Fat Joe, but he is lacking of knowledge when it comes to foundational Black American history and building this country. You're an immigrant too, whether you're first gen, second gen, third gen. Your parents cannot be traced back to the 1866 Census Bureau. You don't know what's going on. You don't know about the sweat equity that foundational Black Americans have put into this country. I remember me and my sister, we was having this conversation, and my nephew Whoopo, and I said, well, y'all know what my last name. I said, Whoopo, what's your last name? And he thought about it. I asked myself, what's your last name? Does that sound like a Latino last name? Because that Latino, does that sound like a Latino last name? Does that sound like an African last name? Because most people that are first, second, and third gens, they have African last names. They don't have white slave master last names. So it's like, we have to understand, we gotta guard it. And Busta Rhymes doing that, I think that's being done on purpose to drive that narrative because you have a payer. Because come on, Busta Rhymes, you know better than that. Busta, come on, you God body. I've watched you on Drink Champs. Let everybody know you God body. You can listen to your lyrics and know you come from a God. The difference between you and Nas is, because Nas, he ain't got, and Jay-Z. Jay-Z's God body too. But I ain't never heard them go out of their way to say, well, we got to give props to the Latinos. Latinos don't even like black folk. If that's the case, let me ask you, David, where are the niggas at, the foundational Black Americans that own a bodega in New York? Where are the black folk? I'm talking about foundational Black American, as Dr. Clyde Anderson would call it, native blacks. Where are they at, and who? Point them out to me, and how many of them own a bodega? And if Latinos love black folks so much, why they ain't put us on the game with the bodegas in New York? See, people think I don't know about that because I'm not from there. But every person that I've met, let me tell you something, David. I call my Italian OG when I used to work 2 jobs, and my second job, it was like recreation. And one of my coworkers, he was Italian, full-blood Italian, from Brooklyn. Man, he was giving me so much game because he grew up around brothers, so he kind of knew. And he was like, the one thing, Warren G, that I knew, the bodegas, they're fucking ran by the fucking, excuse my language, but that's how he talks.
That's how they talk. That's how they talk.
He was like, quote unquote, I don't want to use that language, but he was like, the bodegas, the brothers, because he called back the brothers. He's like, the brothers, they don't hardly own anything in Brooklyn and in Staten Island. And he was breaking it down. He's like, the immigrants got it all, Warren G. He said it to me. He said, and these freaking people don't even work. They didn't even build, they didn't go through no freaking slavery. Why is it every other racial group know what we went through and know what we're deserving of, but we sitting around here giving Latinos props for hip hop? Jennifer Lopez was off the back of Keenan Ivory Wayans. We wouldn't even know who she was if it wasn't for him. Now you're a dancer and you're a Latino, but guess what? You're entering the pop culture. What is pop culture dominated by, my brother David? The dominant society. So if you don't look like Britney Spears or Christina Aguilera or Madonna, one of them, you're not gonna make it. So what does she do? You're partnered up with Irv Gotti. I'm real. Did you say nigga in your song? Now I don't need that no more because I've been dating and giving, my $1 million worth of cookie away to the dominant society. Now it's like you don't even know niggas. You dated Puff Daddy. When the kitchen got hot, you got away from him. Then you went back to your own. See, they treat black culture like a pair of Jordans. Let me put this on because I'm going to look fresh. But when I get home, I don't want to wear no Jordans. When I get around the dominant society, I want to wear Gucci and Louis, not Jordans. Jordans is for niggas. See, that's what they do, and nobody calls that out. Well, I am. Jennifer Lopez is a part of that crew. She should be it should be a revolt card, not revolt, but revolt. You can't come on this side anymore. Pink, you can't come on this side anymore. Post Malone, none of y'all. I'm tired of all these people coming out here, and then when they come out, when I mean coming out here, I mean coming out and crossing the railroad tracks and coming to our side of the fence, where they'll get real. Justin Timberlake, all you, stay over there. Because when y'all get to where y'all want to get to, y'all don't come around us no more. And this is what I don't like about Busta Rhymes saying that, is because that's a false narrative, my brother. And you're basically taking away everything that we've read, our people have been through, the blood, sweat, tears. You're Jamaican. So we have to know that too. No diss to my Jamaican brothers and sisters, but you don't have no ties to this landmass. So you don't care. So it doesn't bother you. But it's going to bother people like us, who we know what our last name is. We know that it leads to somebody's plantation. Yeah, we're going to take offense to that. And I'll land my plane with this. We have to understand, David, that who are these people's payers? Are they trying to remain relevant? And why would they carry on that false narrative when were they carrying on this false narrative with the scenario? I got you all in check. Last time I checked, all through the 90s, you remember, I never heard Busta Rhymes talking about no Latinos co-created hip hop. Do you remember that?
Not at all.
So I'll land my plane with that.
That was, you know what? And I agree with you on that, because what it comes down to is when he says that the Americans here, we don't have any culture, that's kind of like plain, right? Like you can see, if you were to question him on it today, he can say, well, I wasn't talking about the black Americans, I was talking about the white Americans, because I just said he just said Americans, but we all know who he was talking about. We know he was talking about black people here. And I think it's a big disservice and a big highly disrespect to our pioneers. And it shows that, even like you said with Busta Rhymes being God body, it shows that he haven't read his history. I wanna know why, if Busta Rhymes is so proud of being a Jamaican, why don't he have any songs representing Marcus Garvey? He don't have anything to represent Marcus Garvey, right? Marcus Garvey is the greatest Jamaican to ever walk this planet. Why didn't he do that? And it's the false narrative, like you said, of when the Caribbeans came to America, they gave us something that we didn't have. They tried that with Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey acknowledged that, you know what, he couldn't make it happen in Jamaica because they wasn't down for it like that. He tried, but they weren't really with it. He saw something different. He said it himself in his books. He traveled the world. And everywhere he traveled, he seen that the Negro was down. The Negro was the lower caste, the lower class. But he saw something different when he came to America. He said, yo, you know what? They have fight in them. He knew that we have fight. He said, I can work with, these are the people I want to work with. As a matter of fact, Booker T. Washington, where is he at? That's who I want to get with. You see, he tried to get with the other guys, but they didn't, like I said, they did not want to compete for liberation at the time. They was too bent over who slave master was better than whose. You know, who got their liberation first, or who's going to get their liberation first. Marcus Garvey was more so focused on, yo, we need liberation for black people as a whole, all across the world. So he believed in that whole Pan-Africanism and pushed it forward. So when he came here, this is what he did. He gave us something, a different perspective of liberation, of black nationalism, but he didn't give it to us and new. We already had it. We already had that, because Nat Turner was born before Marcus Garvey. He was rebellion. Gable Prosper and Denmark Vesey and all of them, they were born before Marcus Garvey. And they were trying to advance black people as a whole. So black people had already been rebelling and fighting. But it's that false narrative they try to push. And it's the same thing they do with hip hop, what Busta Rhymes is doing here, which he's saying, you know what? We gave them something. We came with that flavor, the Caribbean, or he called himself the tropical people. Not understanding that these so-called tropical people lineage goes back to the same type of people lineage that ours go back to. You know what I'm saying? When you trace it back BC times. You know what I'm saying? So it was definitely a miseducated, and he said it very facetiously, but he was very misguided in what he was saying. And it's crazy, man. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. Let me play this one for you. You play your man right here.
Lately talking about Latinos wasn't in rap and this, these guys are delusional. We're from the Bronx, New York. It happens. And so when hip hop started, it's Latino and black, half and half. But they going at me because I'm like the only Spanish dude, like really with a big voice. And Latinos wasn't there. You was invited. You are a specimen. I don't know what is up with these people that don't know their facts.
But who is he talking about when he says these people? I'm gonna play it one more time, Warren G. When he say these people, they and them, who is he talking about? Because people were the only ones who was beefing. I'm gonna play it again.
Lately talking about Latinos wasn't in rap and this, these guys are delusional. We're from the Bronx, New York. It happens. And so when hip hop started, it's Latino and black, half and half. But they going at me because I'm like the only Spanish dude, like really with a big voice. And Latinos wasn't there. You was invited. You are a specimen. I don't know what is up with these people that don't know their facts.
He says that Fat Joe says that because he's got to be talking about black people. We are the only ones who was beefing about this. So I'll double down on that and I'll say, what is your thoughts on Fat Joe saying that he's backing up him and Busta Rhymes are kind of like on that same wave where black people did not start it. This was abroad.
Well, first, I will say this. I love Fat Joe. I love Busta Rhymes. I've always been fans of theirs. I like their artistry. But Busta, this is what I would say to you. I feel like Busta knows, because he's a god body, so he knows what it is. Fat Joe, I know you know too. But now I'm going to go a little deeper, David. Fat Joe, you call yourself Spanish, but you're not a Spaniard. So I hope he gets it. My brother,
That's the
I
same
love
thing I was saying.
I love you.
Same thing.
I love you, Fat Joe. I love you. I love you. I love you. But let me tell you something. You're not a Borgia. You're not Cesare. You're not a Spaniard. You're not Lucrezia. You're not Cesare Borgia. You're not a Spaniard. If you go to Spain, they will look down on you. They will not even think you're one of them because you're not a Spaniard. A Spaniard is Canelo who fought Floyd Mayweather. That's a Spaniard. You're not a Spaniard. And what gets me about a lot of the Puerto Rican community is, you know, they throw that term around real loosely. Even on the West Coast, like, oh, that's a Spanish chick, or that's a Spanish dude. No. That you can call them a Puerto Rican. You can even say they're Latino, but they're not Spaniard. They're not from Spain. They just speak Spanish. That's it. They're not Spaniards. So that's the first thing, Joe. I think you might want to retrace your history and go do some reading and studying. See, that's the thing. People always want to comment and give their perspective and opinion, David, about the United States of America Incorporated, Foundation of Black Americans, but we built the country for free. We don't need your education. You need to go educate yourself on Puerto Rico. You need to go educate yourself on the liberation of your people. Because the last time we all checked, they fall under the guise of the United States of America Incorporated. And do we need to play that clip of what Donald Trump said about Puerto Rico? Because what Donald Trump said, that's what I would say 99% of white folk feel about Puerto Rico. So I think more people need to start doing their history of where they come from and speak on that. Stop speaking on foundational Black American / Native Black history and what we've done and what we contributed. That has nothing to do with y'all. You don't see us going to Puerto Rico, taking claim in what goes down in Puerto Rico. But all of a sudden people get here and they get as what we call brand new. I would say he's showing out in front of company. You know what I mean? Because you don't even know. First of all, I'm the only Spanish guy. You're not a Spaniard. So you shouldn't even be calling yourself that. And a person from Spain, is going to tell you you're not Spaniard. So that's first. Second, Fat Joe, that's a false narrative and you know it. Stop this. Oh, it was always half and half, Latinos and blacks. I'm going to repeat it again. Well, how many foundational Black Americans own a bodega? Since I'm from the Bronx where shit happened, well, how many black folk own a bodega? Because I done talked to several people from New York, besides you, and like my Italian OG said, he was just like, man, black people, the brothers don't own no bodegas, Warren G. I'll say it again. He said the immigrants own the bodegas, the Puerto Ricans, and, you know, and the Haitians and the Jamaicans. He's like, regular black people, like Black Americans, African Americans, Warren G, the brothers, he would always distinct us from them. Because he grew up with us and he was like, nah, the brothers, nah. They not own, because I asked him, do they own bodegas? And David, let me ask you, I asked him this in 2009. This wasn't a recent conversation. This is 2009. This is way before Dr. Franz Cress Wilson for me. Dr. Amos Wilson. I didn't even know who those people were. I was just always curious. And when he told me that, he's like, nah, man, Warren G, he's like, in New York, yeah, it's a melting pot, but, you know, let's not make it seem like, you know, the Haitians, the Jamaicans, the Puerto Ricans, just like African Americans. That's not how it is, Warren G. He's like, that's just not how it is. He's like, and he was pointing out the racism in the Italian community. He was pointing out the racism in the Jamaican community. He was pointing out, you know, just basically how they, you know, he was like, I could walk in a Jamaican shop, they'll treat me like God, Warren G. But if an African American walk in there, oh, it's a whole nother problem. This is an Italian white guy, David. So he's born and raised from Brooklyn. So that was kind of all I kind of needed to know. And then watching Shine's metamorphosis, it was like it was like he was a caterpillar. It's like he went through a cocoon and came out clean shaved. You don't say nigga. It's like you're not even a part of hip hop no more. That's okay, I'll take that. And I feel like that's where Fat Joe is going. He's trying to solidify himself, but separate himself from black folk that are oppositional of his way of thinking. And you notice Fat Joe ain't read no damn books. Fat Joe, look, we have to understand, when you're on TV and you got all these followers on Instagram and all that, look at who these people are. They're allowed to be there. They're allowed to do that. The dominant society wants that there. They like the Fat Joes. I was watching this thing, David, I'm gonna land my plane. Matt Hoffa, an MC out of New York, I think from Brooklyn, and he has like a podcast kind of, and he has Caesar Emmanuel from Black Ink on there, and Caesar Emmanuel was talking about how catastrophic Viacom was, and how they were just behind the scenes pitting people against each other. You know, the black folk, you know, every scene is plenty of liquor. And he was like, it was just getting to the point where it was like, all right, y'all doing too much. And one thing that he said that stuck out to me, and I'm gonna land my plane, he said when Nick Cannon was going through what he went through with the Redstones, our white. Can you hear me now? Okay, my bad. I don't know why I put do not disturb, but these people still keep calling me. My bad. But I was watching this thing about Caesar Emmanuel from Black Ink in New York. Okay, so I'm watching it, and he was breaking down Viacom and breaking down how they was pitting black folks against each other. You know, same old. We know that. Okay, you know what he said that really baked my noodle? He said when Nick Cannon was going through what he was going through with the white dominant Jewish community, remember when he had that interview with Professor Griff? And then after he had that interview, immediately the Redstones, which own Viacom, that's a white Jewish family, right, stripped him of all his stuff, stripped him everything. Caesar Emmanuel from Black Ink said Viacom was persistent on giving out COVID relief checks, right? So he was like, why are they giving out $50,000 checks? One of the producers told him they doing that so y'all won't say nothing about Nick Cannon. That's how on cold the dominant society is. And you have to look at the Busta Rhymes, I don't care how much a person say nigga, Busta Rhymes, Fat Joe, all of them. You have to look at them as the ops, the agent provocateurs. Their behavior is agent provocatorish. It's just in a whole nother platform, a whole nother way. Think about it. You got Busta Rhymes. Busta Rhymes, they never talked about no Latinos in the 90s. I never heard him talk about that. It was all God body. All God body. All God body. Now all of a sudden, oh, well, Latinos, okay. Then you got Fat Joe mimicking that behavior. But then when you ask one of them, so how many foundational black Americans own a bodega? It's crickets. Then if that's the case, then why do y'all have the Puerto Rican Day Parade? Why is that? It should just be the Black Parade. And it should be Puerto Ricans and Cubans and everybody. Why is it all of a sudden there's an Afro-Latino? I never heard of that before. Because in the 80s and the 90s, when it was flooded with Latinos, we didn't want to be amalgamated. Black folk were, in the 90s, I felt like it was the most pride we had in our culture. We loved being separate from everybody else. And I feel like the Puerto Ricans had their own culture. But my thing is, I think once the Puerto Ricans figure, well, and all these other racial groups figure, well, I can't get to where I need to be unless I join with the brothers. And then once I join with the Foundation of Black Americans and get to where I need to get to, now I'm about my culture. Look at Jennifer Lopez. Look at Fat Joe. Look at these people. They act like they so down and, you know, and I'm listening to Fat Joe. Who are these people? These people are Foundation of Black Americans who know the history of our country. You are an immigrant or a second gen or first gen or third gen. Tell me your history about your country. Give me some books that you have read about your culture and your country. Everything that you say on the United States of American soil is null and void to a person like me. And I'll land my plane with this. I remember when I was working at a different corn plantation and this Filipino brother was trying to educate, and I stopped him. I said, I don't even need you to educate me on the country that my family built for free. And everybody got quiet. And he was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, I don't need you educating me on why I need to vote. And this is way before I read David. I said, I don't need you educating on me on why I need to vote and why I don't need to vote. I don't need you trying to educate me on who the best candidate is, because I'll say it again. My ancestors built this country for free via slavery. So anybody else that just got here and you ain't built it, my last name tells me who I am and what my people did for this country. I don't need you to educate me on that. And he shut up and he walked away, and everybody was like, hey, he told, yeah, man, get out of my face with that. I don't need that. That's why I don't want to even hear nobody that's not from this country try to educate me on the United States of America. I don't care if I ain't read no books. Can you go to another country and educate them about their country? They're not even gonna let you speak. They're not even gonna let you speak. But over here we have the Fat Joes of the world who think he has a platform where, okay, I could just say this. Well, it's always been half and half. No, it hasn't, Fat Joe. Stop lying. Stop. Now you're just being disrespectful. That's why I didn't mind Donald Trump being in office, because Donald Trump was the great equalizer. He was an all opportunity racist. You notice Fat Joe he's gonna keep going with this narrative until people just start basically just being like, you're an uneducated buffoon and you're an infantile when it comes to the history of this country. You're speaking on the Bronx, which is a minute part of the history of the United States of America Incorporated and how it was conceived and built. You know, in New York, that's the home of the kidnapping club, the home of our good brother, not good brother, but yeah, good brother, David Ruggles, the home of our great enemy, Richard Riker, as in Judge Richard Riker, as in Rikers Island, who was a part of the kidnapping club in the antebellum period between 1826 and I don't know how long, just putting brothers in prison for no reason. And then he's not free? You going to jail. That's what Richard Riker was doing. So you can't even speak on your own state that you're from, because you don't even know the inception of how the United States of America, especially New York, was conceived. You just running your mouth. And you just run your mouth of what you know. And you don't even understand how beyond disrespectful that is to our scholars like Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. Ben, Dr. Francis Quest Welsing. You know, like, it's like, this is what happens when you're dealing with other racial groups who are beyond disrespectful because we don't vet them out and hold them accountable. You ain't gonna do that in the white Jewish community. Look at what they did to Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon didn't even call him out their names. He didn't say no racial slurs. All he said was he agreed with Professor Griff about the books and about the Moors. And what did they do? They publicly maimed him. They humiliated him to let every other black person know, you cross the white Jewish community, we'll take everything from you. So it's like, it comes a point where it's like, people are like, oh, well, it's not a big deal to you. It's not a big deal to a lot of people that are non-foundational black Americans, that are tethers, you know what I'm saying? As Brother Tariq Nasheed would call them. You know, as Dr. Claude Anderson would call them, is immigrants. It would just straight be like they're immigrants. You're here for unearned benefits. And I'm sorry, Fat Joe, I love him to death as an artist, but you're an immigrant and you're here from unearned benefits, and you're getting unearned benefits because you cannot trace no lineage back to no 1866 census where your people were being treated as cattle, livestock. Your people weren't trying to escape the New York kidnapping club. You understand what I'm saying? Your people didn't deal with people like Margaret Sanger, who created the Negro Project, who said black folk were weeds that needed to be exterminated. You didn't have to deal with that. We have to deal with that. Our people have to deal with that. It's so funny on Twitter. People were posting pictures of Fat Joe when he was a kid. He looked like a typical white kid. And you like, well, I grew up around black people. Well, you know what? Well, then why didn't your parents just stay in Puerto Rico? They didn't have to come here. Why is all these immigrants acting like somebody's putting a gun to their head and making them go to the United States of America Incorporated? All these countries all around, you could have went to Russia, you could have went to anywhere, but you know why you come here? Because the United States of America will treat immigrants like they belong here and treat foundational black Americans, as Dr. Claude Anderson puts it, like a permanent underclass, and I'll land my plane.
Wow. I mean, you definitely blazed that one. You blazed that one, man. And as we drawing near towards the end of the podcast, man, I definitely 100% agree with you on not everything, but the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? I agree with you on the whole thing. Yeah, it's listen, when Fat Joe says that hip hop was 50-50 Latino and black, that's not true. That's completely false, because I've even made a podcast showing the Jubilees. Yeah, I know. The Jubilees who were in the 1930s and 1940s, they were rhyming. They were rapping already. They didn't have the drum machine and everything, the beat machine yet, but they were rapping, and they were using that inner voice from in them to bring it out. You have Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, a lot of the times he said things in a poetry form and made it rhyme. The most famous one that we all know about, that they commercialized the most, is fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee, stuff like that. Listen, this is what Muhammad Ali was doing. Where did he get this from? Muhammad Ali was doing this before there was a Fat Joe here. He was doing this before there were any Latinos breakdancing, or any Latinos doing graffiti on the walls, on paper. I'm talking about here in America. He was already doing this. You have James Brown, who was, you can say, hip hop came straight from him as well. We can go on and on. The blues and jazz. How did we get that? That comes from out of our experience, from the Great Migration, from the Harlem Renaissance, from the mistreatment and maldistribution during slavery time. We developed songs, and they took the drums away from us. You see what I'm saying? They took the drums away from us because they realized we used that as a way of communication. You know what I'm saying? So when Fat Joe says that we've done it 50-50, no, it wasn't. They were not hanging and lynching Latinos in the 1940s. When the Jubilees were making records rhyming on every beat. They even rhymed in the White House. You see what I'm saying? They were rhyming, they were blacks still being lynched at that time. The Jubilees just wasn't out there just selling themselves out. They were really trying to create a new avenue for black folks here. You see what I'm saying? And so this is before Herc and all of them. Herc wasn't even born when the Jubilees were rhyming. The Jubilees were already in their 40s.
Facts.
When Herc was before Herc was born. So we have to really give credit to where credit is due. Even Malcolm X, a lot of the times Malcolm X in his speeches, he made certain things rhyme, and he had comical sentences and lines sometimes, but he made them rhyme, right? When he said, when Malcolm X said, it's time for us to stop singing and start swinging. That's a rhyme right there. You see what I'm saying? This is what we have to understand. There was no Latinos, again, breakdancing or pioneering. As a matter of fact, when you take a look at the Black Panther Party, when there was an influx of immigrants coming into the country, the Asians and the Latinos, today we would call them the yellow people, the yellow and the browns, right? So when there were an influx of them coming into the country, the Black Panther Party, Fred Hampton was one of the first in the Chicago chapter. We took them in and said, yo, you know what? It'll be better if you side up with us because we can all get something done. You see what I'm saying? Well, we all know Fred Hampton wasn't for the all people thing. He was for black first. But Fred Hampton believed in power to the people. So if the people has the power, then we can overthrow the pigs, is what he would call them. We can overthrow the pigs. So we took them in during the civil rights movement, the civil rights laws and acts that we wanted passed. We wanted them passed for the Latinos and the Asians too. The NAACP, which is I'm not a great fan of the NAACP, but even they were fighting for the colored people, all colored people, right? That was their thing. Again, I'm not all for them, but that's what they fought for. Again, you see our people, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X and different folks, they're taking these people in and they're saying, okay, you can be a part of our community. You see what I'm saying? We welcome them. Yeah. But when they have their parades, I'm talking about the Puerto Ricans who call themselves Spanish, when Spanish is a language. When they have their parades, a lot of the times, depending on where the parade is at, they don't even want the darker skinned Puerto Ricans to be there. They kind of shun them off a little bit. You understand what I'm saying? So there's racism even there too. And so that's why I would say they had no influence on hip hop here on the birth of hip hop here in America, because we birthed hip hop from our experience. Our experience of oppression, suppression, and repression. We birthed that from what we were going through. So there's no way that you had Latinos in the same chains being whipped, sold as chattel slavery. They were not there. Again, when you track that back and you stop that and you fast forward it now, when you hear songs like Self-Destruction, there was no Latinos on there because you have black on black crime. So there was no Latinos there. No Latinos from New York, no Latinos from LA, from Vegas, from Chicago. You didn't have them in those songs. Do yourself a favor and don't curse. This is what black people were doing because they said they were conscious. They understood black culture. They understood their history. So there's no way that Busta Rhymes, Pete Rock, Fat Joe, any of these guys can convince me, or people like me or people like you, they can't convince me or you that they played a big part, or what Busta Rhymes would say had the biggest influence on American history, Black American history's music. There's no way you can't convince me, because I know my history behind that, and I understand that you had blues, jazz, you had rock and roll, which was ours first. You had rhythm and blues. You had all of these things. You even had brothers breakdancing during the 30s. Breakdancing. All right. We already, if you want to go to the graffiti, let's not even go there, right? Because we can trace that back beyond and go back to Africa with that one. Like, so let's not, with the writing on the walls and self-expression, that all came from our struggle. And being that we were being oppressed, we couldn't really get it out because we didn't have the rights. So we voiced it out. We pushed it with our voice. And when Public Enemy was talking about black power to the people, there were no Latinos as a whole coming and saying, we agree with them, blacks should have power. They should have power. We side up with you. We're not looking to be a part of it. We understand that's your struggle. We had our struggle in Puerto Rico. We're going to try to gain our reparations in Puerto Rico because they took a lot from us and our ancestors in Puerto Rico. So we're going to try to gain our independence, our true liberation and true independence in Puerto Rico. We're going to get our reparations, and then we're going to side up with you guys as you guys fight for your liberation and your reparations in America. And we're going to come together, and we're going to create an even greater nation where we can all get along. But again, you have yours, we have ours, where we don't have to integrate. We can integrate when we want to, by choice. But we understand, we respect you guys wanting to be a nation within a nation. They didn't do that. Wasn't none of that going on. So there's no way that Fat Joe, Busta Rhymes, or anybody alike can say that they played a huge part in it. See, what Fat Joe get it twisted, Warren G, and I'll shut up here. What Fat Joe gets it twisted is that he says that he says that these people act like we weren't there. Nobody said that Puerto Ricans wasn't there. Nobody said that South Americans wasn't there or Asians wasn't there. There were Asians there watching too. They were watching too, trying to mimic our breakdancing and everything. Yeah. Nobody said you wasn't there. We're saying that you didn't have an impact on the creation of it. That's what we are saying. We are saying that came from the Black experience because it came from us being sold and treated as chattel slaves and being forced to work in the coal mines. Hip hop was created from the frustrations from the Black Code and Jim Crows. And when you put that all together, we never had a chance to rest and try to build a nation. When they destroyed our all Black neighborhoods, there was no Latino community coming together saying, that's not fair what you guys have done to them. We need to have an equality factor here. They were not doing that. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying that Latinos don't like Blacks. I understand a lot of them don't. A lot of them don't, because I've heard a lot of them tell me that personally. They told me that. I've heard a lot of them say that in Spanish, not knowing that the dude that I'm hanging out with he speaks Spanish too, but he's just from Honduras. He's telling me everything that you just said. I know that, but I understand that there are some Latinos who do get down with Blacks. There are some Latinos, a small group, who do understand that rap came from Black people. They understand that. But that small group, they're not speaking out. So they're pushing this narrative, I think, to take our culture away from us. You know what I'm saying? As far as the love for music, Black people have a knack for having love for music, and they're trying to take that away from us and say, this don't belong to you, it belongs to them. They want to erase it so that when our grandchildren are born, there's no record of our history being birthed in hip hop. They did the same thing with our history in Africa, here in America, and South Americas. They come over, colonize, and they kill off all of the people, the knowledgeable people who hold standards to that understanding. And then they tell the new birth people, the new birth children, they say, you guys didn't have a history. So our children are what? Born with the ideology that we didn't have a history. We come from nowhere. They don't understand that. You see what I'm saying? So it's all a part of the brainwashing. Listen, hip hop is our culture. I'm talking about the elements that go into it, not the negative factors in which, you know, it's used to exploit and is used to maldistribute resources. I'm talking about just the elements, the breakdancing, the DJing, the rap, you know what I'm saying, the graffiti. That all comes from Black people. It comes from us, whether you want to believe it or not. The only thing that we have as Black people, especially as FBA people here, is that we have facts to back that up with. We can make that statement and back it up with facts. Fat Joe, Busta Rhymes are making these statements, but they can't back it up with facts.
Fact. That's real. That's real. That's real. That's real. I gave it. Hey, you just put it all in a nutshell. You right, and I didn't even think about that. They wasn't getting lynched. They wasn't getting, you know, they'd have to go through Jim Crow. They weren't even around for all that. So you're right. That's a fact. You definitely right about that. Definitely right about that.
Yes, indeed, man. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, man. So yeah, yo, Warren G, if you got anything else you want to say before we end, I definitely. This is the one thing that I want to say, and then we'll you know, I'll end my plane. Contrary to what everybody believe and what everybody think, I was watching Tony Yayo on Matt Hoffa show, and he was saying all this stuff about the game and all this other stuff. To me, Tony Yayo and all of them, they sound like Sambos and Coons because Game went at Eminem. You know why? Because Game is a foundational Black American. And foundational Black Americans ain't afraid to call out the dominant society on they BS. And that's what I like about the Game. People may not like it and, oh, he's clout chasing, all this other stuff. I don't care what he's doing. I'm glad he did it. Because we need to stop holding up other racial groups that come amongst us and our culture, and they become the naysayers of who we are. We need more Lord Jamars in the world that are like, no, bro, you against the hip hop too. You didn't create it, and you're using this platform to build generational wealth for your family. Because if you didn't have hip hop, you'd just be working at a factory in Detroit somewhere. You'd just be another white person working at a factory. So much props and respect to the Game. He's one of my favorite rap artists. He's foundational Black American, and he wasn't afraid to go at Eminem. So I just want to put that out there because I get so sick of watching a lot of Black folk buck their eyes and get to cooning. Oh my God, he went at Eminem? And I'm looking like, Eminem is not as great as everybody think. I'm not saying he's not a dope MC. He's very dope. But when it comes to our culture, no. You're not a God MC. You're not even on my top 10. That's just my perspective. I think Eminem is a dope lyricist, but I have to say this, you know, much props and respect to the Game because it's more related. I can relate more listening to the Game and his struggle about LA gang culture because I'm from LA, than listen to somebody, you know, talk about their mama and all that. You know, hey man, it's good with the Dr. Dre beats. And I'm not saying you're not a dope lyricist, but I'm just proud that the Game went at him because I'm just so tired of our Black folk bucking their eyes and Samboing and Conan because they don't even want to be in a rap battle with this man. That's kind of ridiculous. He's not a rap god, and stop treating him as such. But that's it. We need to know our history, know who we are, and start checking people at the gate. When they say slick stuff out of line that's contrary to documented history of foundational Black Americans, check them. Once you do it, they're not going to come at you like that no more. I've had to check a Latino brother. He said something like, hey, you know, the Black and brown say, yeah, but Mexicans didn't build this country. And he got quiet. So, you know, I just think we have to do that, man. I appreciate you having me on, my brother.
Man, man, your background is dope. And, man, you need to make some clothes and hurry up, man. I see my sister was messing with the paints too, man. I'm happy to see that, man. Hopefully we get a whole bunch of people. You know me, I just want you to make a bunch of clothes. You know that, man. I'm be the first person on there ordering this stuff. I'm so sick of us having value in the dominant society stuff. And the dominant society don't even like their own clothes. They don't even like their own clothes. The dominant society want to dress like us. And we so busy wanting to dress like them. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm gonna land my plane with this. I was looking to go get some more basketball shorts, just basketball shorts, you know what I'm saying? Then I went in Kohl's, and I was like, what is this, the European section? All this tight shit. I was like, man, I don't come from that era. That's the problem with black folk. Yeah. Black folk, you know, that's European culture, you know, with all that. If you look at the 90s, you know, that's when we really started to show our culture, to me, like who we were. Baggy shirts, baggy pants, all this tight shit, wanting to show your ass as a man. I don't understand what's going on, and we got to start teaching our young kids too, man. Don't be wearing my nephew don't dress like that. Look, don't be wearing all this tight shit. That's European culture. You know, you as a man, you wearing all this tight shit, and ain't no women around. I don't know what you on, my brother. so you know I'm silly too, but I'm just saying. I couldn't even find no shorts, man. It was all drawers in there, man. I'm like, man, this looked like a pair of drawers. And then the shorts that I did find that was big, the string was all messed up. I'm like, man, back in the day, remember when we go get shorts? You know how easy it was to go get some big baggy shorts in the 90s?
Yeah.
And you get it now, man. I went in that. Man, exactly. I went in that Kohl's. I was in there for 45 minutes, an hour looking for shorts that were big and baggy and weren't tight on my ass. I'm like, man, I don't want to wear no drawers. Like, I want to wear shorts. So it's like, we got to start teaching. Look, man, I'm not saying we're the most biggest, baggiest stuff, but hey, don't take on somebody else's coat. That ain't your culture. You know what I mean? Define your culture is the history of the United States of America Incorporated and it being built for free. Your culture is not wearing Gucci and Balenciaga and all this other stuff. These people are laughing at you. You think Warren Buffett got that on? Man, I seen Bill Gates in a pair of Crocs walking around. This is a billionaire. They don't care about that. So it's like, we just need to know our history, know our culture, and protect it, covet it, and start teaching the young people our culture. And make sure they read those books. You know what I'm saying? Start reading. And that's it, man. I'll land my plane with that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So yeah, man. Yo, Gan Warren G, thanks for being on. We're gonna continue to get it, man. We are going to continue to get it, you know what I'm saying? And stuff, man. But y'all, appreciate you for being on. Everybody, I thank you for listening. Shout out to Warren G's whole family. He got a big family, man. So shout out to his whole family out there in Las Vegas, LA. Shout out to my family, my friends, all of us, man. Yeah, I agree with Warren G. Let's understand and know our history. Know your history. Know your history. So that means we even have to study our artists as well. They are a part of this theme. You know what I'm saying? Science, technology, engineering, arts, you know what I'm saying? Math. They're part of the arts. We have to study them as well, not just inventors, but also study our artists because they made it. They made a big contribution towards FBA culture and had an influence on the rest of the world. Period. You know what I'm saying? So good looking, Warren G. Thank you for being on, my brother. We're gonna get it. We're gonna keep on getting it.
And let's get it again. Hey, and tell my sisters, those sisters that got the black business where I bought the cup, and then I know the other sister, she make like sweets and stuff too. I ain't forgot about them. And those people that you listed on the IG, I see some of them got clothes. So, you know, I'm definitely gonna mess with them on the clothes side of the game. So, you know, I ain't forgot. But hey, this is a poor man's struggle right here, bro. So when I get a little bit of bread, I let them know I ain't forgot about them, man.
Most definitely.
Hey, man, and keep making those paintings, and y'all go support this brother's paints, man. Please put this on there. Support. Look, niggas go to the club and spend $300 in one night. Go buy a painting. God damn, man. They niggas pay $500 in tithes, but won't go support a black business. So, all right, man. Let me get up out of here, man, because you already know. That's a whole nother subject. My bad, man. That's a whole nother subject. My bad.
That's a whole nother. That's definitely a whole nother subject, and that'll be definitely the next podcast, y'all. Basically, Warren G just brought it up. Is the church used to brainwash black folks? Has it been used to
definitely
brainwash
have me
black
on.
folks? Yes.
Definitely have me on that one.
That's gonna be the next one. So yo, I'll check y'all, man. Warren G, good looking, my brother.